Good morning and welcome to the Appeals Committee for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. My name is City Councillor Vivian Santos. I will be your chairperson. We are on the Community Services Appeal rotation, and I'm joined by Councillor Ross Edie of the Minarski Ward, and I believe Councillor White had mentioned he's on his way shortly. Will join us probably later on. For those who are watching online, just to clarify why we only have 2 people for quorum, when I was elected to chair of the Community Services Standing Policy Committee, there was a seat had remained open because Councillor Duncan had moved over to Water and Waste. At that time, we as council did not appoint a new member to make it 4 committee members, so therefore it stayed at 3 committee members. Therefore, with 2 people, that is quorum. Okay, so we are meeting quorum. I also will introduce the public servants. We have Brendan Harris, our committee clerk, Sydney Jerez, planner. Steve Nuttall is also a planner. We also have Dana Kane, who's also here from Development Planning Office, together with her colleague Andrew Ziegler. Is that correct? And I also want to note and acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional territories of Treaty 1 and the traditional territories of the Red River Métis that we have the privilege of living on. Also acknowledge our ancestral territorial lands and that our water comes from Shoal Lake Band number 40 in Territory 3, together with our neighbors in Territory 5, where our hydroelectricity comes from. And just moving along here, I believe that is all I have. Oh, I do require a motion to move the minutes of the last meeting, which was October 23rd, 2023.
The last meeting held on, what was the date?
October 23rd.
October 23rd be taken as read.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried. All right, Brendan, please move on to our public hearing process.
In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the appellant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the appeal. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the appellant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it's your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be a part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a conditional use for 6 Maybank Drive under file DCU 223-897A/2024B. Members of the committee, please note communications were received in support of and in opposition to the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. At this time, I'll turn it over to a member of the administration for a brief overview.
Good day, councillors and Mr. Clerk. The subject site is located on the south side of Maybank Drive, west of Marshall Crescent, in the mature neighborhood of Maybank within the city center community. 6 Maybank Drive is a corner lot. It's 60 feet wide, 110 feet deep, and approximately 7,333 square feet in area. The applicant would like to establish a major home-based business as an esthetician. It is recommended that this appeal be rejected. This concludes my summary. However, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Edie.
What type of business?
Esthetician. So esthetician providing beauty services.
Oh, right. Okay, thanks.
This is considered a major home business wide.
She wants to have clients attend the property by appointment only.
And it's currently not allowed in this community.
Because it's a major, because she wants to have people come, we need a conditional use in order to approve that. Had it been a minor home business with no customers attending, it would have been outright proposed or permitted.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's another issue for another day. But got a problem with people running couriers out of houses.
Thank you.
Okay, so we did not have our appellants registered to speak. Just to confirm, is there anyone in the gallery who wants to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, we can move on to those in opposition to the appeal. We did have Desiree Rosar Nunes, the applicant. She has provided a submission. Did you intend to speak today?
I provided a letter. I don't need to, but if you guys are wanna read from me, yes, I can.
Well, yeah, if she could read.
I'd like to ask you some questions.
Yeah, if you just want to come up to the front, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name.
Morning.
Yeah, if you can have a seat.
You can have a seat if you like.
Yeah, you can have a seat. And then state your name. And then you can read. And just so you're aware, like, we get documents through, like, tons of documents, and we just don't have time sometimes to read it. So
Okay.
it would be great.
Okay, no, it's
Read it.
okay. No
Okay,
problem.
thank you.
I skimmed it, that's it.
So I'm Desiree Rosar Nunes. First of all, I would like to apologize to the neighbors, Mrs. Ryland and Mrs. Jacks, for the inconvenience. It was never my intent to upset any of my neighbors. Before starting all this process, I had contacted the neighbors that are close to my house and asked for their approval and support. I would never start the process without their knowledge. Saying that, I would like to reinforce that I have the signatures of the neighbors that live very close to my house in support to my application and could be directly affected by my business. I'm only here today because I'm following all the laws and regulations. I paid more than $1,000 in fees to get this process done correctly. I think this talks a lot about myself and how much I respect laws and regulations. During this process, it came to my attention that so many people just open their business without a formal application and approval from the city of the Winnipeg and run without any problems, but that is not how I work. I'm taking all the steps to protect customers and neighbors, following all the health regulations, licensing, and sanitation requirements. About the impact in the neighborhood, I'm certain that my business will not have any negative impact. I will only have clients by appointment. No walk-ins will be accepted. It's not a clinic, it's not an office. It's only one small room in my basement, and I will be the only professional working there. I have a driveway with 4 car spots and a garage for my own car. I will only have 1 visit per time. Even if they use the street to park, it won't bother any neighbor. In my best days, I will have 4 or 5 clients a day. Because the business is run only by myself, I need at least 40 minutes to 1 hour to get all set up for the next client. I need to check emails and messages from clients, archive properly their waivers and intake forms, make notes about the treatment, sterilize materials, and tie the room up for the next appointment. I would like to place a small sign at my driveway so my clients know where to park and check in, as I think this can minimize any disturbance with my neighbors. The sign won't be for advertisement. About violence, in my point of view, a busy house and neighbor that is all day around just keep the area safer and more vigilant than a quiet and dead neighborhood. My clients are coming for a beauty and relaxation treatment. I really don't think they will be coming to my services only to check how to break and enter into my neighbors' houses. In my website and social media, it will be very clear that no walk-ins are allowed. A deposit for first visitors will be asked to avoid people that won't show up or are not trustworthy, because I also want to be safe. Let's not forget that. About the potholes, I agree with my neighbors. It is very frustrating, and I do also pay my property taxes and would like to have a better street condition. But this problem is not my fault and won't get worse because of 5 cars coming daily to my house. A side note here, it could be my friends or family. I can have parties like a lot of neighbors do. Also, we have a community center very close by that in the summer hosts some events bringing a lot of visitors to the neighborhood. About the name of my business, I really don't understand Mrs. Ryland's complaint and I'm not sure if I need to explain anything here. I worked in Brazil for many years with lymphatic drainage massage as a beauty treatment and also a post-surgery therapy. Here in Canada, I got certificates on different beauty treatments and specialized in clinical facials and laser treatments. I'm very professional and committed to maintain a well-run and respectful business. This may not be important to my neighbors. Sorry.
You need a glass of water?
It's okay. It is very important to me. It's a restart after so many struggles with immigration, depression, an empty nest after my boys moving to Calgary. I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for that.
You can apologize.
An empty nest after my boys moving to Calgary for university. And with the recent passing of my father, I needed to find myself and decided to follow my dreams and have joy in my life again. Taking care of people is my call, and that is what I want to pursue now. I have used all my savings to go back to school and buy the tools and machines. I'm using only one room in my basement. That I also spent a lot of money in renovations to follow the health and sanitation rules. It is a beginning. I won't have many clients that will give me a revenue that would pay my investments and my regular bills in addition to a rental of a business property. Unfortunately, renting a space now is not affordable for so many reasons, and my only option is my basement. I really wish that my neighbors are correct, and soon I will get so busy that I need to move. It will be a dream coming true. I hope this is enough to prove that I'm not intending to run a busy spa in my house. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and defend my dream. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You can state, we do have some questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Edie.
Well, you answered one, just to confirm though, like based on your potential clientele right now, there's no way you can make it financially viable running this type of business out of a commercial space, right?
Exactly.
So you're just building, as you said, building your dream. I just, one thing I wanted to know, and you're following all the rules. Did I hear you might be using some level of laser treatment?
The laser for hair removal?
Oh, hair removal.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good. So I think there's some provincial requirements if you're using that kind of equipment to follow. Is that right?
Yes. I have like the signage. I don't have any mirrors, or the window need to be covered. I'm following all the regulations to keep safe.
Yeah. Okay. Just one more question. Rules have changed over time, but are you doing any like what do they call that again? Like not piercings, but
No.
doing any other like
I
there's
have
a lot of different beauty things that are available
I
nowadays.
think what you were meaning is about, I have the microneedling that it's a little bit more invasive. So I have the body and modification certificate from the Manitoba Health. And I also have the BBP certificate that is about the blood-borne pathogens. I also followed all the steps necessary.
Okay. So aside from hair, is there any other body tissue that you need to dispose of?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. I'm just looking at the documentation in front of us. Where it says that if you were approved a conditional use, there are certain conditions that will be applied to your business.
Yes.
So you've read them?
Yes,
You understand them?
I
There's about
understand
six
them.
different conditions here? Okay, and you're
Yes.
fully supportive of those?
yes,
Okay. Okay, and I don't have any other questions.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
So we haven't had anyone else registered to speak in opposition to the appeal. Just to confirm, is there anyone else here who would like to speak in opposition to the appeal? Seeing none. Is there anyone who would like to speak for information on the appeal? Seeing none, we can now go to questions for the public service.
Do you have any questions for the public service, Counselor Edie? Anything? Okay. I don't have any questions.
Okay, because we haven't had the appellant registered to speak, there's no one to speak in rebuttal. I will just note one item to the committee. Condition 6 currently says conditional use granted by this order to permit a photographer. Just if the committee was going to deny the appeal, they may want to adjust that condition just to read esthetician instead.
I'm sorry.
On item number 6.
What do we need to change that to?
So condition 6 currently just says it references permitting a photographer. It should read esthetician. So
Esthetician, right?
if you were going to deny the appeal,
Having trouble
you
with
may
the
want to
word
do that
esthetician.
minor amendment.
Okay. So I'd be denying the appeal in part.
So the wording, slight change to the wording now, it would be to allow the appeal, but it would just be with the amendment to change that word.
And fully allow the appeal.
It would have the same effect though in that
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, really?
it's because the original order needs to be canceled. If
Yeah,
you're going to.
okay,
amend
yeah,
it.
that's right. Oh, okay, I get it. Right. Okay. All right, I'm almost there, Madam Chairperson. Oh, yeah. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 254 and subsection 247(3) of the City of Winnipeg Charter. I'm gonna say does not.
No, it would still be is consistent.
Is, yeah,
It-
okay, I was gonna say,
Assuming.
okay, yeah, okay, I got
Yes.
it, okay,
Yes.
hang on. The conditional use A is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and the applicable secondary plans. B does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining properties and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property from the street or waterway. D is not compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated.
Sorry, was that is compatible?
Pardon me?
Is compatible? Are you moving to approve the condition?
Yeah, D is
compatible, yes.
compatible, that's
Thank
what I said.
Okay, just making sure.
Missing C though.
Nope, not on a conditional use.
Well, there is no C on this one.
Correct.
No injurious effects on, okay, all right, good. My supporter reasons, for supporting, this woman's, aspiration to operate an esthetician's business, I don't see this causing any problems, for the neighborhood. By appointment, is, she's not gonna be, publicizing her business right there on the street. It's gonna be marketed in a certain way. That's basically it.
Thank you, Counselor Edie. All those in favor? Aye, and that's carried.
I move that the appeal be allowed. And the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development not be
concurred in with.
to be concurred in with the amendment to item 6 to replace photographer with esthetician.
Excellent. All those in favor?
I
Aye, that's carried.
move the conditional use order DCU 223,897/2024. Is that a D? I think it is. Not canceled.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried. Would you have to finish off or anything?
That
No.
concludes that one. Councillor Wyatt is
On his way? Okay. Just give us a
Should be up shortly.
Fine.
We want to take a brief recess. What do we need? Yeah, just make it a quick stone. Just quick break.
Good morning. Joining us, Councillor Wyatt. Need a moment to log in or can you start?
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to our next appeal, conditional use 442 Dubuque Street. Please walk us through.
Item 2 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a conditional use for 442 Dubuque Street under file DCU 201170A/2024C. All participants have been muted and will only be permitted to speak when called upon. Once you've been heard, you can either remain in the Zoom meeting or leave and continue to watch live via the city's YouTube channel. If any participants are currently watching the live meeting on YouTube, please mute your audio player now. At this time, I'll turn it over to a member of the administration for a brief overview.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and good morning, councillors. This is an appeal against the conditional use application DCU 24-2011-70C to permit a multifamily dwelling in the R2 residential 2-family zoning district. In this case, it's a 4-unit, 2-story townhouse development. There's a DAV application for variances associated with the proposed development. However, that application was not appealed. The subject property is located on Dubuque Street in the Norwood East neighborhood of the St. Boniface ward. The subject site is 5,780 square feet in area. The site is currently occupied by a 1.5-story building built in 1954 and used as a single-family dwelling. The subject site is accessed by a gravel rear lane, and under the Complete Communities Direction Strategy 2.0, the site is within the Established Neighborhoods Mature Communities Policy Area. Property is zoned R2 Residential 2-Family District. The applicant intends to construct a 4-unit, 2-story townhouse development. The existing single-family dwelling on site will be demolished. The submitted site plan shows that the proposed development will be 37.6 feet wide, 68.9 feet in length, and 24.7 feet in height. The proposed development has a lot coverage of 41.97%. 1 unit will front and take their sidewalk access from Dubuque Street. The remaining 3 units will front and take sidewalk access from DuPont Street. The site plan shows 4 parking spaces, including 2 accessible spaces, all accessed from the rear lane. And the landscaping plan shows 37.32% of the lot will be covered with soft landscaping. Along Dubuque Street, 2 large trees, 1 small tree, and 6 shrubs will be planted. And along DuPont Street, 4 trees and 18 shrubs will be planted. As previously stated, the subject property is located in an established neighborhood designated as a mature community, as outlined in Complete Communities 2.0, and is subject to the infill guidelines and the Mature Communities PDO, falling under Area 2. The proposed development does not meet the lot width criteria of the preferred location criteria from the infill guidelines. Specifically, the lot is 49.24 feet instead of 50 feet. As a result, the proposed development must be analyzed using secondary considerations for evaluating a multifamily development as outlined in the infill guidelines. The Urban Planning and Design Division has determined the subject site is a suitable location for a 4-unit multifamily development based on the following secondary considerations. The subject site is located in an area which is characterized by a mix of densities and uses. This residential block already contains a 4-plex at 422 Dubuque Street, a lot which is 41 feet wide and 4,919 square feet in area. This is 8.25 feet narrower and 861 square feet smaller than the subject property we're here discussing today. The shortfall of 0.76 feet in width is not considered to be detrimental to the viability of the development based on the submitted site plans. This minimal deviation from the preferred location criteria is supportable to allow development to proceed and the conditional use to be granted. In regards to the analysis of the conditional use, the Established Neighborhoods Mature Communities Policy Area under Complete Communities supports infill development that is context sensitive and complementary to the existing scale, character, and built form of the neighborhood. As part of analyzing whether a project is complementary to the existing development, the Urban Planning Division takes into consideration such things as the surrounding land uses, building heights, built form, dwelling unit densities, building setbacks, parking, and site access. In terms of responding to the surrounding context, the proposed development is located on a block with 1 other 4-unit multifamily building and directly across the street from another 4-unit multifamily building on DuPont. When considering the build form in relation to the single-family buildings, such as the building height, lot coverage, and setbacks, the building fits into the physical scale of the surrounding context as the design mitigates the massing of the building by giving each unit a distinct look through the use of multiple facade materials and individual roof lines for each unit. The Public Service has recommended approval of this application, and this concludes our summary. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you. Councilor Yee?
So you said the design guidelines, but we just amended the zoning bylaw, and I believe there was some expected lot width when it comes to building 4 units. How come you're applying the design guideline rather than the zoning bylaw?
So the design guidelines would be supporting the modification to the zoning bylaw. So the recent changes are for 3 units or less. And so we use the infill guidelines for 4 units or more. So the infill guidelines is the document that has that preferred location criteria, and that sets out the lot width of 50 feet minimums.
So I could have sworn though, so we didn't pass anything about lot widths regarding 4 units in whenever that was last spring.
Right, so those changes, I believe, are currently under review, but have not been added to the zoning bylaw yet.
All the bylaw hasn't been confirmed. That's interesting. Okay. All right, thanks.
Just for clarity, so we have the infill guidelines that kind of guide us through, all of the things that you had mentioned here in this list. So are they going just a little bit and modifying just outside of the infill guidelines? Is that what you're stating?
Yeah, so the design itself follows the infill guidelines. The reason why they needed this was because it's 49 feet instead of 50 feet. So that's the 50 feet is the minimum to support four unit densities. And the lot is just, a quarter of a foot too short.
So they need to kind of change a little bit of their
Yeah.
setbacks and all that stuff? Okay.
Yeah, and then on top of that, so it's an R2 zoning district, so multifamily is a conditional use, so they had to make that application.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we didn't have any appellants registered to speak to this. Just to confirm, is there anyone in the gallery who wants to speak in support of the appeal? Seeing none, we also had no one registered to speak in opposition, but just to confirm, is there anyone in the gallery who wants to speak in opposition to the appeal? And is there anyone who would like to speak for information on this appeal? Seeing none, we can, if there's any further questions.
The applicant's not here?
Nope, the applicant never registered. Oh,
Yes,
so you would be to speak in opposition to the appeal?
no, I'm not, but I'm the owner of the thing, the property.
Do you wish to speak?
No,
Oh, okay, you're just here to watch. Okay.
No, he doesn't. I have no questions for him.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think Council White would. No. Carry on. Madam Chairperson, I guess I'll move the,
Okay, we're gonna go right into it.
I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
That's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
That's carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 254, section 254 and subsection 247(3) of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the conditional use is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan. Does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenity, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway. Is compatible with the area in which the property affected is situated. And my supporting reasons are a quarter of a foot. It's not much, and this is an area that has been looking at this type of density, and so it's not going to be anything out of the ordinary necessarily. So those are my supporting reasons.
Any other comments? No questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's carried.
I move that the appeal be denied and the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development be concurred in.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
That conditional use order DCU 201,170/2024C be confirmed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal be concluded.
Favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next appeal, conditional use, 442 Scotia Street.
Item 3 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a conditional use for 442 Scotia Street under file DCU 174454A/2024C. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing, and the following item will also be heard at the same time. Namely, item 4 is an appeal against the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development to approve a variance for 442 Scotia Street under file DAV 174490A/2024C. Please note communications were received in support of and in opposition to the appeal, which have been distributed to all members of the committee. At this time, we can turn it over to a member of the administration for a brief overview.
Thank you. Is the volume okay? That looks far. Okay. Good morning, councillors. The subject site is located on Scotia Street between Forest Avenue and Leela Avenue East, east of the Marymount Way in Seven Oaks neighborhood of the Minarski ward. The property is zoned R1M, residential single family medium, and it's located in the mature communities policy area. The site is occupied by Marymount, a youth and family social services organization. The site is 7.8 acres and it's occupied by 4 adjoining buildings and 2 smaller outbuildings. Parking is internal to the site and access from an approach at the corner of Forest Avenue and Scotia Street rather than from the lane on the north side of the property. The applicant intends to construct a new 12-bed live-in treatment center with in-house supports to be located in the vacant northeast corner of the site, replacing the 2 existing outbuildings. The applicant's letter of intent states that the existing treatment center houses high-risk youth under more stringent supervision and care, whereas the proposed facility would provide care and supervision with more autonomy for low-risk youth, ages 13 to 17, whose issues have not been adequately addressed in a community center, so helping to transition them. The proposed building would be 1 story and a total of 5,760 square feet. It would accommodate 12 dorm-style bedrooms, as well as a guest suite for visiting families, a central living area, dining area, and a round room, common space. The massing is broken into 3 wings, which helps maximize the natural light for all of the rooms, and also reduces kind of the overall massing. A private roadway would be extended internal to the site to provide access to the structure and to assist with improved firefighting access for the overall site. Again, no vehicular access to the site would be taken from the public lane. The applicant submitted an arborist report which notes the location and condition of 238 trees on the site, of which 18 trees in fair condition would be removed as a result of this construction, and 2 which would be removed due to poor health. The report also outlines recommendations for tree protection and preservation. The reason for the conditional use: care homes are permitted in residential and commercial districts, including R2. This is R1, pardon me, subject to a maximum of 6 beds per care home. This cap allows the public service to consider larger care homes on a case-by-case basis through the conditional use application. And we are supportive of this conditional use because the development meets policies outlined in Complete Communities, in particular supporting a variety of housing types and tenures within established neighborhoods to meet life cycle housing needs. And it would support youth at moderate risk with integration into the community, providing wraparound supports with greater autonomy. The variances, the proposed care home requires a variance to permit a reduced side yard of 11 feet, that's the north side yard, instead of 25 feet, as well as a variance to permit more than 1 principal building on the site. Again, we're supportive of the requested north side yard variance as the siting of the proposed building takes into consideration the flood fringe area and the protection of a number of existing mature trees on site. So they're working with some constraints there. As well, the form of the proposed building is modestly scaled at 1 story and spread out into 3 wings. 2 corners of the building extend into the requested north side yard, but are expected to have little impact on the abutting residential uses on the north side, given the geometry of the proposed building and because they'd be further separated by the lane. We're also supportive of the variance to establish more than 1 principal building because the site is 7.8 acres, occupied by 6 buildings, 4 of which are adjoining, and the 2 smaller outbuildings would be replaced. There is an adequate amount of land to accommodate all the buildings on the subject lot. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Edie.
So will there still be any trees left on that side yard of 11 feet between the back lane and the building?
I assume you're meaning just around where the building is proposed?
Yeah, so there's that side yard which actually is running along the back lane, right?
That's right.
So that's gonna be 11 feet.
Right, the trees that are being removed there are still trees there. There's actually, it looks like, it actually looks like there is at least a dozen trees on this landscape plan, showing the existing trees. As well as they're proposing 4 new coniferous trees to help screen, and a number of shrubs. There are still trees there. I think the trees that are being removed are largely within that building footprint.
Yeah, within the footprint. So
Right.
there are still, what I'm getting it is there still will be some tree. Okay.
That's correct, as well as 4 new.
And they're gonna plant a couple more
That's right.
coniferous big trees. Trying to get a view. So the driveway is an extension from the parking lot on the property?
That's correct. So there's the drive aisle to that parking lot.
Yeah.
And there's an existing drive aisle that'll be widened and extended to move east towards this building.
Right.
Northeast.
Okay. You're saying 3 wings,
So it's shaped like a kind of like a Y, like a lowercase y.
lowercase y?
Yes.
Hang on, 1, 2, oh, okay. So the bottom of the Y reaches out towards the river?
The bottom of the Y is reaching southwest.
Southwest?
So the 2 upper parts of the lowercase y would be in that the north side yard.
North side yard and one of the, so this part of the Y, not that part, that's towards the river? Or the windows will face towards the window, river?
Yeah, there are windows. Actually, the longest part of the building
Yeah.
faces towards the river.
Yeah, okay. One other question, like when they go for the building permit and stuff, they'll have to confirm that there's no problems with the riverbank, if that's,
That's correct.
yeah, so they have to meet engineer requirements.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. All right, that's all the questions I have.
My question I have is the riverbank stabilization.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Councillor White, no, okay, go ahead.
We didn't have any of our appellants to register to speak. Just to confirm, is there anyone here to speak in support of this appeal? Seeing none, we can move on to those in opposition. We have the applicant, Lindsay Oster, has registered to speak. Lindsay, if you'd like to come forward, you'll have up to 10 minutes to make your presentation after you state your name. Not necessarily.
As an introduction, Nancy
Okay.
is probably not sure.
Excellent.
You have a presentation? Yeah, sure. Well, Brendan will help you with the technical stuff.
You forward and it'll be here, but I can get you set up.
Good morning, my name is Nancy Parker. I'm the executive director at Marymount and trying to keep some distance here. Just in response quickly to that question, we really tried to privilege the river view to the youth. So every one of the bedrooms are those windows facing out onto the water as well as the round room in the middle. But I do want to pause and acknowledge, I guess, the privilege we have of occupying the 7.8 acres on the Red River and how that really supports the healing journey and our educational services for the youth that we serve at Marymount on the campus. And I was thinking today with the passing of Honorable Sinclair, one of the things that we've really taken to heart that was a teaching of his was he said this to a group of educators. It was important for children to learn to answer 4 questions. Where did they come from? Where are they today? Where are they going? And who are they? And we've really acknowledged that for us is true organizationally. So where did we come from? is important to us, our history, our legacy of being founded by the Sisters of the Good Shepherd. And it was with a lot of ambivalence at one point in the journey that I'll talk about. We were looking at asking to delist our historic mansion. And that was where the sisters resided for many, many years. And so part of me is grateful that didn't come to be, and because we were hoping to site the home on that footprint. But we, found other solutions. And so just quickly, we're one of 15 health and social service networks that are under the Lizo Compassion Network. That's all a cluster of organizations that were founded by congregations of sisters and lifted over to their governance and ownership. We have a broad range of services, assessment and treatment programs, crisis stabilization, including the Youth Addiction Stabilization Unit, a school with about 60 youth that are on the campus, the older youth now in the main floor of that Leacock home. Also vocational program, have cultural clinical services that support all of our youth and a wide range of therapeutic programming. And the continuum of programs for youth in care, we run group care. We have 2 very high intense treatment healing units on site, treatment foster care, youth moving into independence, maternal and early childhood services, which are sited up in Thompson, Manitoba, and then sexual abuse treatment services. And our vision over time really is to start to shift into building on our capacities for mental health addictions and trauma treatment. And over time, as Bill C-92 sort of comes into play, we'll see, I would hope, a devolvement of a lot of our footprint into child welfare over and into Indigenous governing bodies. This has been a journey. I joined the journey in 2017, but it started in 2014 when government announced on the site of the Leacock home that they would support funding a program, a $2 million construction loan built into that funding, and please go fundraise Marymount. And so off Marymount went. And in 2019, those commitments were pulled back, which was certainly then a time for the board to pause. And they said, no, we know this is a huge gap in services for Manitoba youth. I have this sweatshirt on today. It says never give up. It's actually an educational staff who started this campaign after trying to get mental health services for youth and said no mother should carry their child into an emergency room when they tried to die by suicide. And so she was able to get out of province residential treatment for her daughter. Lots of challenge with being out of province, including when the pandemic hit. And this is a huge gap in Manitoba. This level of care and support for youth that are really, really struggling with these kind of complex challenges. So wise support across the multitude of reports that have been written about this need. So 2022, after the pandemic, with the increased costs of materials, etc., it started to look pretty tough to spend donor monies where we were edging up into $1,200-$1,300 a square foot, and still really doing gymnastics to try to make that space suicide safe for youth. So we hosted a community consultation and had a good show of community members, not all in agreement with our plans, but certainly wanting to inform them and give them some feedback into 4 potential sites for building a new healing home. Feeling the cost per square foot could be manageable and really honor donors' investments for this project. So the current site that we did land on had the features of being very private, close to services and other buildings for programming, and a really great access to the landscape for the youth. The delisting of the historic home was pursued in order to build on that footprint as the first choice. That was denied in February 14th of 2023 at Executive Council. But the comments from the mayor and others did state that they fully supported the new building of a healing home on the campus. So on we continued. And as I mentioned, determined to choose the northeast corner of the property. And I think what I heard from the earlier approach really supports kind of what we're doing. We have that classroom, a classroom right in the home for the youth if they need it versus going to the school. We have a suite for families. And at this point, we're planning to use 10 of the 12 rooms to kind of right size it for treatment, but there's always options into the future. So we really looked at sort of disability accommodations and such in the design. And just to finally sort of toot Marymount's horn, there's been a lot of work in the last 4 or 5 years to really create a fundamental clinical healing approach. So underpinning everything is world class, led by the sort of pioneer innovator of trauma informed care, the presence model. If you imagine 80 hours of training for staff, including maintenance and administration, sort of differentiated training, but really supports our ability to manage trauma, culture, complexity, conflict, all of those kinds of things. And we've seen huge gains across sort of our staff culture with that. This picture on the side, that's Dr. Perry's neurosequential model with therapeutics. And rather than, when I think of my clinical years, sort of operating blind, with this assessment, we can see if a child has experienced neurodevelopmental trauma, and it's usually a combination of trauma and maybe not the supports to buffer it. And then like the brain grows, if you will, from bottom up. And so here's below a typically developing 7-year-old, and their lower brain's coming on quite nicely in green and starting to develop up. But this other person in the upper one has really experienced some challenges. We wouldn't jump to the top, which is talk therapy and prefrontal cortex, because they don't have the capacity built under it. So it allows us to sequence treatment right at where it's needed to then, with the different treatment recommendations, lift it up, continue to work up. So that's incredible. And we're the only one of 2 sites in Canada that can do this. Significant training for the staff that have that capacity. But out of those recommendations, many of the recommendations fit well with an Indigenous approach to healing, other cultural approaches to healing, Western assets to healing. And so that led to our reconciled healing model that I would say our Indigenous circle really supported the team for about 2 years, going back again to the workshop, if you will, to really fine tune and understand what this could look like. And so that's where we sit today, of really feeling like what we have to offer to Manitoba youth is quite remarkable. So with that, I think I would like to turn it over to our, excuse me, I have the flu, but I felt being here in person was important today. So over to my colleagues from Prairie Architecture.
Just hold on one second, just gonna look to see if there's any, there will be questions. So we do have a question, if you can just stick around, Councillor Edie.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Edie.
Actually, just one. So did you know, appreciate all the work that Marymount has done in the from the distant past to today. I think it's a good project, but I just thought I'd bring to your attention, you were talking about kind of some opposition to expanding or whatever, but I just want you to know in 2006, there was plans to expand Marymount, and there was a much more rigorous opposition to even having more youth at risk who need services. There's no doubt about that, right? So I just wanted you to know, Nancy, your experience wasn't as bad as the 2006, way before I was even a counselor, but I do live in the neighborhood. So anyway, and I just, so after that experience, whatever that was last year, this is an interesting design that the architects came up with. Like, I don't think the original, I think the original intention was a 2-story or something like that.
It was to be in the Leacock home, so it was taking, using all 2 stories of that home.
Yeah, that was the original, and then there was a proposed doing a new building. What was that new building? This model of the Y shape?
It was not too dissimilar, if I recall. I'm sort of deferring to my architectural geniuses over here, but I think it was going to be one story as well.
Yeah, you'll be able to
Okay.
get an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's okay. That's, anyway, I just find the why pattern kind of interesting and it sort of follows the riverbank because it's not exactly straight, right?
No.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? No questions. Thank you. You're fine.
All right, up next in opposition to the appeal, we have Lindsay Oster.
I actually have a jump drive as well. Sure, how to get this one.
Yeah, you did send it.
Yeah. Some of the trees will help answer some questions.
You'd prefer the PDF?
If that's easier to be.
Okay. Just confirm. Which one is?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lindsay Oster. I'm a principal architect with Prairie Architects. And I'm not going to reiterate a lot of obviously what Nancy said about incredible need for a building of this nature on this property. What I hope to maybe add some clarity to today is a little bit more specific to the appeal to the conditional use and to the variance. So with respect to the appeal to the variance for more than one principal building on the zoning lot. So you can see behind me, the color's not showing up, but as Ms. Jerez pointed out, there are a number of buildings already currently on this site. And with its zoning designation as R1M, medium density, anytime Marymount wants to do something on this site by adding another building, we obviously will come up against this variance. So there currently are the number of property or the number of buildings, as was pointed out, 4 buildings interconnected. The location of the new building in the sort of top right of the screen, you'll see there's some dashed lines behind it. The color on my screen, oh yeah, you can see the red. So those 2 red dashed boxes indicate 2 outbuildings that will be demolished to make way for this new facility. With respect to the variance for the north side yard, we are requesting a yard of 11 feet as opposed to 25 feet. Again, with the demolishing of the existing outbuildings, you can see that those buildings shown in red are very close to the property line. So we are actually, with the location of the new building, we're actually improving upon the existing condition. You'll also notice to the left, so to the west, the existing powerhouse building is also well within that setback. So also, as was pointed out, due to various process of, first trying to occupy the Leacock House and then trying to occupy the site of the Leacock House, we really were quite restricted in terms of where this building could be located. It was questioned a bit about the flood fringe and the primary line of defense, which is shown on this plan. So we are respecting that, and certainly within the construction documentation and moving into construction, there will be supervision per requirements there. But you can see that with the north property line to the north, the PLD easement to the east, the existing Leacock House and Priory building to the south, and the powerhouse to the west. the building really is quite locked in. And so we tried everything possible to minimize the impact of the building on that site. So to Councillor Edie's point, respecting the river line, but also even though we're infringing in that setback, with the angle of it, trying to just really minimize the impact. So it's corners of the building and not a full face. So zooming in a little bit at that particular site, and I know that we've talked about the buffer within that setback, and in particular the trees. So this plan highlights a little bit more the trees that are proposed to be added along that property line. So these are the 4 new coniferous trees shown here. The existing trees that are along that property will all be protected as the scope of work and construction takes place. And we will also be adding new trees to further reinforce, and shrubs to further reinforce that distinction between the property line and the back lane. So with respect to the question of the appeal for the conditional use to establish a care home that exceeds 6 beds, we've just included the floor plan here showing those 12 beds. They've all been prioritized to be facing the river. As Nancy pointed out, the fundamental connection to the land and to the river was really, really essential in the design of the building. It's why it's the shape that it is, certainly. And there was a very strong effort to connect that land with windows from the bedroom units and the common spaces. The top portion of that Y houses then some more of the administrative, the mechanical and janitorial space, as well as the office, and an option for classroom space for these kids if it is too difficult in a day to go to the school. One of the appellants noted site lighting and potentially glaring lights into adjacent properties. And so we did just want to point out there are 2 exterior wall-mounted lights that would be within the setback. I'm just going to point to it. One is on this face of the building, and it is right on the setback line. And another one is sort of in this zone, which is intended to provide a little bit of light into that back corner. But again, with the intention of screening the property line with trees.
You're done?
I'm done, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you're done. Thank you. Yes, questions, Councillor Edie?
Lighting. Is there not there's a couple of Manitoba Hydro lights down that back lane? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a whole back lane before you get to adjacent properties. They're not even really they're part of the separated by a street or whatever, but.
Correct. They are, I'm going to just go back to the site plan. So you can see here along the north, there's the property line, and you're quite correct. There's a back lane which would be lit with site lighting, and then there's, for the most part, all of the or a majority of the houses that would then back onto that back lane have garages. Before then, it would be the yard and the house. Right. So we do feel that the additional trees that were proposed will really help to shield that impact.
Most people like their back lanes really bright. Anyway, so when your firm had a look at the site and stuff, started looking at that, there's some issues on the property, sort of be the very northeast part of the lot that's I think there's been issues of dump garbage encampments and stuff like that. What is the what's happening with the property line? Cause that back lane doesn't go all the way to the river. It's an L shape. And there's a little street that just comes in there. Well, I think it's got a different name than Scotia, but, what's happened? Are you doing anything with that small piece of the property there?
No, that property along, like on the riverside, the northeast, that all is on the other side of the PLD easement, for primary line of defense easement, so flood protection. So
It is it.
none of the development that we're proposing infringes on that area.
Right, but is that part of the Marymount property?
I believe so. The screen here shows, I think what we're talking about, is this top left portion. So the property line goes past that street, that where the back lane comes into, and toward the river. It sort of jogs at a different angle to the river, but I think that is where you're referring to. And yes, that is part of Marymount's property, but outside the developable area.
I was gonna say that, I think that's still pretty unstable. We lost a huge chunk of land right there, so, over the last 4 decades, but, is it, 4 decades, but, okay, I think that's all I have about it. I just wanted to compliment you on that kind of design of the building, so, yeah.
Any other questions? Does that help? Thank you. Thank you. We have next.
Okay, up next in opposition to the appeal, we have Aaron Reitiger.
My presentation was in the same thing with you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Just to confirm, there's no one else in the gallery who would be speaking in opposition and no one who would be speaking for information. So at this time, we can go to questions for the public service.
Questions for the public service?
No,
Councilor Eady? Looking for any
bear with
clarification?
me, Madam Chairperson.
I know, but do you have questions of the administration before we move into motions?
Right, nothing that would pertain to the conditional use or variance.
All right, so then we will entertain a motion then.
Yes.
I'll wait for you.
I move that a report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor? That's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move that in accordance with section 254 and subsection 247(3), City of Winnipeg, where the conditional use is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any other applicable secondary plan. It does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenity use. Sorry, safety and convenience of the adjoining properties, adjacent area, including an area separated by a street or waterway, is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. My supporting reasons are, I think over time, there was a definite good attempt to work with the neighborhood and community in expanding what is really a very essential service that requires 12 units. 12 units are really important, but it will hardly even reach the tip of the iceberg. Like there's such a huge need for services for at-risk youth, and I think this is great. And again, like all the 4 points that are made under the charter, this is very compatible with what's been happening on this property for over 100 years.
And Councillor Wyatt, you're good. Okay, all those in favor? That's carried.
I move that the appeal be denied and the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development be concurred in.
All those in favor?
I move that conditional use order DCU 174,454-2024, is that a C?
Yes.
C, be confirmed.
All those in favor?
I
That's carried.
I move that the public hearing with respect to this appeal on the conditional use be concluded.
All those in favor? That's
Aye.
carried.
Bear with me, I'll get to
Yes.
the next one, Madam Chairperson. There's the variance. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service on the variance be taken as read.
All those in favor? That's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 247(3) of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated from the property by a street or waterway, is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property and is compatible with the area in which the area in which the property be affected is situated. Sorry. And supporting reason is the same, and I just also want to make it very clear with Marymount, from the councilor's perspective, maintaining that heritage was very important, but a building facility to assist at youth risk is so important. And I'm glad that with this vote, colleagues, it's moving ahead.
All those in favor? That's carried.
I move that the appeal be denied and the decision of the Director of Planning, Property and Development be conferred in. Aye.
That's carried.
I move that variance order DAV 174,490/2024. What is that? A D?
C.
Huh?
C.
C, right. Be confirmed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's carried.
I move that the public hearing with the respective appeals be concluded.
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
That's carried. Anything else, Brendan?
There we go.
Just a
No,
motion
we're
to
good.
adjourn.
All right, Councillor Wyatt, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
All right.
Thank you, colleagues. Great work.
Right.